everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. Today, I'm going to be painting a Goblin Runner from Green Horde, Zombicide by Simon Games. Just showing you there, I've colour primed it using Army Painter's colour primer, Necrotic Flesh. That's that sort of pale green. Just showing you, there's quite a few sort of mould lines, seam lines here, just scraping those off to begin with. Probably should have done this before I primed it, but I just didn't notice at the time. Just excited to prime it all, and then I went to paint it and saw it wasn't quite as clean as I'd like. So you might need to spend a little bit of time cleaning it up if you care. I'm going to be starting with Wolf Grey to do the runner's loincloth, and I'm sort of hindering myself, although not really, but I'm just using the Army Painter's Zombicide Black Plague kit and the new one they released, that Green Horde one. So they're the only colours I'm going to use for this model, just to show you what you can achieve with just those two sets of paints by the Army Painter. So if you haven't got into painting yet, they can be some great sets just to pick up if you like how this model looks by the end. I'm going to be using the new paint in that Green Horde set, and this is Goblin Skin. It's a yellow, light yellowy brown colour. I'm going to be painting all of his leathers on in this colour. I did consider just painting the zombie skin in this, and you know, how would that look? Quite a yellow goblin. I think that could look really, really interesting, but I'm just going to do the leather. So that's his boots. He's got a belt around his waist, and then he's got this sort of X cross across his chest. So two straps looping round both ways. And then I'm going to use pale flesh. That's in the new Green Horde Paint Set by the Army Painter, as I will continue to mention, just to make sure you know exactly what paint I'm using. But that's just painting his tongue. That's all I was doing with that bit. Crushed Skull, again, Green Horde Paint Set by the Army Painter, and this is a light white, so it's very similar to Brain Matter Beige if you had that, or Bone White by Vallejo's. That sort of, it's just a very off-white, just slightly off-white, sorry, it's a very light yellow, I guess. It's a bony colour. Rough Irons next. This is a new paint in the, it's not a new paint, you can buy this by the Army Painter full stop, but it's in the Green Horde one. Again, it's one I'd not got from any of my previous Zombicide sets, and I'm going to be using this to paint in all of his armor, all of his metallics, and there you just see I'm clicking in my hobby holder just so I can paint that metal a little bit easier. It's giving me a little bit of better grip for this bit because it was quite fiddly. You can see I'm using my detail brush, trying to be very careful. I don't want to catch his skin, basically. That colour primer has done 90% of the work of this model for me, and now I don't want to get this really, really dark iron colour, but just taking my time really and using that hobby holder to help steady my grip. So he's got a couple of rings where that cross of leather strap is. He's got shoulder pads, both of those. He had a belt buckle and a knee pad as well. So I'm just painting all of that in this colour. As I mentioned, I'm trying to use just these new paints that Army Painter have provided and see what effect you can get. So I could be using a lighter silver there, but they're not in the set, so I didn't go that way. I am, however, going to add Glistening Blood. I think he's got a lot of cuts on him, so I feel like he needs some blood painting in. He's got lots of open wounds, so I'm just painting those in now. Just getting a little bit of dribble, a bit of run from that blood sort of dripping down his chest and his arms and that sort of stuff. Next, I'm going to be using the deep shader from the kit, and I'm going to be shading in all of the dark areas, so that, well, all of the painted areas, sorry, I should really say, other than his skin. So that's all of his clothes, his loincloth, his boots, his belts, his straps, everywhere except for his skin. And I am going to skip his metallics as well. They're already so dark. I really just didn't want to darken that down any more than I had to. I'm going to try and lighten that up using the Claymore blade in the Black Plague paint set. So I'm just taking my time here. I'm still using my detail brush and being very, very careful, making sure I try not to get any on that skin. Possibly it's okay where the skin joins the clothes because you want that dark anyway, but really just want to be extra careful. So I'm going to use Plague Shader. That's from the Black Plague kit, and that's just a quite bright green shade. I'm just going to do all of his skin in here. Just careful to move all of the pooling around. So I don't want it to pool on any of the flat surfaces. I really want to just push it into the recesses. So I work this wash around the model quite a bit, just trying to get it anywhere that the shadow would be cast, so between his fingers, around the back of his knees, in all the crevices, in his muscles. I still don't know what you call that bit. The bits between his muscles. It's got quite a lot of muscles on his back. You can get a really nice look on his back. After that, we're just going to go on to highlighting straight away. Just two washes, nice and quick. It's only a small model. I'm going to be using Plague Skin, which is 100% matched to that Necrotic Flesh colour primer that I used at the beginning. I'm still going to be using my detail brush, and I'm just going to be painting back in the base color on all of the raised and flat parts for this tone. So I'm just whizzing around carefully, getting all of his muscles. I'm going to paint individual fingers back in. I'm going to paint on the tips of his ears, his nose, his head as well. The light would be catching his head. Anywhere the light would be catching. Really, I'm just trying to leave the shade, the wash in the recesses, just in the very, very recesses. I'm going to move on to highlighting the Goblin Skin, and it's just going to be the same really, just highlighting back up all the raised parts. So on his boots, there's lots and lots of folds in the material. So I'm just highlighting the edges of all of those folds. I also highlighted his toes and his heels, where I think the light would be catching because those bits are sticking out slightly from the model, and the sun would just be beaming down and brightening up his shoes, along with his personality. This is probably one happy goblin. They don't call him Happy Harry for nothing. I mean, take my word for it, they definitely call him that. So just carry on lightening up. Same with all of the straps that he had on. Now you really want to just paint the top edges of all the straps, but this model is just a minion. I'm not really taking that much time and care, and just painting on a bit of highlight across all of those straps, and it's going to look great. The crushed skull for the bandages, I'm going to take a little bit more time with, because I do want to just highlight all of the rays, all of the bandage parts, and just leave that deep shader nice and contrasting in between each scrap of that bandage. I'm also just going to paint on some teeth now. You probably wanted to do that at the base coat stage, but I think I just missed it out, and I just wanted them bright teeth anyway. Wolf grey back out, just going to paint in all the raised folds of that loincloth, as well as there's a rim just around the top. So I didn't bother painting that in the base coat because it's so thin that you only need to highlight it anyway. It would be the brightest colour you could. So I'm just going round the rim and leaving that deep shade sort of where it's touching the belt, so it gives it a nice shade anyway. It's just dark brown lightening up to wolf grey, which looks really, really nice and realistic. As I mentioned, Claymore blades out. It's the second metallic that's provided in these two kits. You can find all these kits in the description below, along with the paint list if you just want to look at all the paints that I'm using. But I'm just going to use this and pinpoint highlight all those metallics, all the edges. Going to go carefully around the edges, any spikes, any bumps, any studs, that sort of thing. Just bringing that back up to this really, really light colour. I've only got a tiny bit on my brush. I'm trying not to flood any areas with a lot. Also just highlighting those hoops that are holding those straps together. I'm going to use Babe Blonde. This is from an older Zombicide set, I think from the Survivor set they did a long time ago. It's just because I wanted yellow eyes. It's up to you what colour. Abomination Gore is the red that comes in the kit, so you could give them red eyes if you'd like. Then I'm just using that Glistening blood that I had to buy separately, although if you buy certain kits from the Army Painter it comes for free. And I'm just brightening back up some of that blood, just making it look a little bit more realistic, making sure it looks like it's dripping down his face. I've added a cut above his eye. So I've looked at the model and really just didn't like how the eyes looked, and I thought they looked a little wonky, and I don't think it was entirely my fault. I don't think the model's sort of I don't know, so something felt wrong. The eyes were wonky. So what I decided to do is add a lot of blood to this eye, as though he's had his eye ripped out or something disgusting like that. And this is just going to cover one of his eyes, so the other one looks perfect, and this one's just being gouged out. At the end of the video, I'll show you the other model without any blood added, so you can sort of see my problem with the eyes. I painted where they are, but they don't look right, so either I needed to fake it and paint them not where it seems like they are on the sculpt, or add some blood to cover it up. Plus they're minions, they're on and off the board, tons of them, you're not really going to notice that. For the base, I'm painting it dead black on the surface, and then I'm going to use Plague Skin, which is the green to match the Goblin Skin, just so I can recognize it on the board more easily, because I think a lot of people have already mentioned and complained that it's very, very difficult to tell the runners apart from the rest. So for all of my zombies, I'm going to be painting the base different so they're more easily recognizable. Here he is, 1 hour and 6 minutes. That's pretty fast for me. He's got a lot of detail to paint. You can skip it if you want. Obviously, it's a minion, do what you want. I went for a sort of middle ground, did it as fast as I can, but I still wanted to put some detail on. And I'll just show you the second sculpt, as I mentioned. Painted him exactly the same, with the exception that I'm using Pale Flesh for his skirt and Abomination Gore for his hat. I painted this on Twitch. If you guys aren't aware, I'm now streaming on Twitch sometimes, so you can come and paint with me live. I'll put the link here, and it'll also be in the description below. I'm just trying to raise the number of followers I got and see where I go, and I'll probably stream more and more. Thank you all very much for watching.